Hey y'all, it's Danielle Branche-Brown, and today we're going to be talking about self-care. This has been a really hot topic these days, right? A lot of people um, advocating for and practicing self-care and talking about self-care. And so I just wanted to jump on and talk about my perspective of self-care and what I do specifically, personally, and professionally for my self-care. From my perspective, self-care starts with self-awareness because I cannot care for myself if I'm not aware of what my needs are, if I'm not aware of what my triggers are, if I'm not aware of what my boundaries are, right? If I'm not aware of what my desires are and what brings me joy and what lifts me up and what helps me relax. Right? If I don't take the time to get to know myself and become aware of those things, I cannot um, successfully take care of myself. Self-awareness, that's number one. So how do you develop self-awareness? My sort of main ways of developing self-awareness. Journaling is a huge part of getting to know myself and hearing myself without judgment. So journaling, therapy, of course, I'm biased, right? Because I'm a therapist. But self-care goes beyond just talk therapy. Other things to develop self-awareness, or that I use to develop self-awareness, is listening to the people closest to me, right? The people that love me most, the people that see me and experience me more than other people do, and believing them, right? Not taking on fully their perspectives of me, but if I'm hearing them say, hey, um, you are a little bit irritable today, right? Or, hey, I'm noticing that you have more energy today. I'm paying attention to those things, right? And I'm taking inventory of how they are experiencing me as well. So that's self-awareness. I wanted to talk to you about my self-care kit. And it is basically just a box of stuff. Um, So in my self-care kit, I have my vision boards. Again, this is another self-awareness tactic or technique because this really helps me to pinpoint what it is that I'm visualizing for my present and for my future, right? And what I want and what I feel drawn to, what I feel called toward, right? I have a manifestation journal that I use for my self-care practice. And really, again, visualizing what I want, aligning with what I want. There are magazines in here, okay? And I have a ridiculous amount of journals. So one of the things that my therapist helped me to do is label my journals and distinguish which ones go where, because I used to have just either one or two like fat journals that I would use, and they were big, and I would just pour everything into them. But what happened was they were so disorganized, I wouldn't be able to find them and all that sort of thing. But now I know what each of my journals are for, right? If I want to just dump and vent, I have a journal for that. If I want to practice gratitude, I have a specific journal for that. If I am trying to build that self-awareness, I have a journal for that. I'll do a video eventually on a writing style called proprioceptive writing, which is basically just the hearing of oneself, the hearing of your thoughts, right? And I have a journal specifically for that. I have a journal for my therapy, right, and my assignments for therapy, the topics that I'm processing in therapy. You don't have to do it like that, right? But that's just a suggestion. This journal here is specifically where I process my grief of my grandmother, and also where I work on my codependency recovery. I'll probably do a chat with me video on codependency and what my process has been like to recover from that. I have a positivity journal, right, specifically for positive thoughts. I have a spiritual journal, right, so a prayer journal specifically for women, right, and that is a part of my spiritual self-care, right. One thing to recognize is that holistically, there are so many aspects of us that we need to care for, right? There's the physical aspect, there's the spiritual aspect, the emotional, mental aspect, right? There's the relational aspect in terms of caring for self, right? So I'm just sort of pouring out all of those things. I also have books in here. I have um, my Bible. I have tarot cards. I also have my affirmation box here that I put in a tea box. Right, you literally can make things work for you however they make sense. I'll read you some of my affirmations that I read if I'm like feeling emotionally drained, or if I'm feeling a lot of self-doubt, or if I'm feeling overwhelmed, right? I'll pull some of these. So I'm not holding on to things or people with desperation anymore. Life will happen whether I'm holding on or not. I might as well let go and enjoy the ride. That's an affirmation I have. Another affirmation, you don't have to put anyone else down to recognize what you have. You're cool and so are they. All right, that's the practice of the yes and. So my husband did a box of things that he loves about me, which I requested that he do. Again, that's that relational self-care. That's also part of my emotional self-care, is reminding myself of my connections and the love that I have around me. So one of the reasons he put is because of your big goals and dreams for the future. And then some of these are actually suggestions for things to do to take care of myself. So get a plant, baby. I love gardening. That's a huge part of my self-care. All right. And then also in here are these pre-made affirmation cards, right? So it just depends on what I'm looking for that day, right? Again, that goes back to self-awareness and knowing what you need at any given time. And sometimes it's trial and error, right? Sometimes you think you might need a meditation, and then you try to meditate and maybe you're a little bit too anxious to get settled into it. And so then you move into journaling, right? Or you move into creating affirmations, right? Or you light a candle, right? Candles are a huge part of my affirmation. I have a candle lit every day. I make Marshall runs at least once a month to make sure that my candle stock is ready and full. Physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, relational, and professional self-care. So I've gone over spiritual, right? That is that might be crystals or grounding objects. That might be prayer. That might be reading the Bible. That might be doing a tarot reading. That might be like my spiritual practice is quite expansive. So those are some of the things that I might do for spiritual self-care. I might just sit in silence and meditate or practice mindfulness, right? Lots of different tools for spiritual self-care. My emotional self-care, like I said, journaling. Most of the journaling that I would do for emotional self-care would be like that pouring out style of journaling, to really allow myself to feel my feelings, because I used to suppress in order to show up in a way that was like performative and perfectionistic. And so I was doing a lot of self-neglect for a long time in my life, repressing my own emotions in order to show up for others. And now a part of my emotional self-care is giving myself time, space, and enough value, honestly, to actually trust myself to experience my emotions. And sometimes that involves setting boundaries, right? So setting boundaries is a part of my emotional self-care. And it's a part of my relational self-care. So if you notice, like a lot of these strategies or practices will overlap, right? They might be both spiritual and mental. They might be both relational, right, and emotional. So recognizing what you need for your self-care is going to be really important. Physical self-care, I love going to the gym. I love to dance. We have the movement therapy classes that we do. I love yoga, right? So any way that I can get my body moving, get my endorphins flowing, and I like to feel strong, right? And so weightlifting is something that really feels good to me. And I like to feel free and like fluid, right? So dancing is another one that really resonates with me, right? So really the reason I'm doing this video is because I want you to think about a few things. I want you to think about self-awareness, right? I want you to give yourself space to get to know yourself and your desires and your needs and your boundaries, right? Get to know which part of the month or which part of the day you feel a certain way. Like really pay attention, like being attuned to who you are, how you feel at any given moment, right? So that self-awareness practice is what I'm encouraging you to do. And then I'm also encouraging you to think about all the different aspects of self-care and how you can show up for yourself in each one of those, right? So spiritual, emotional, mental, physical, relational, and professional, right? What does self-care look like for you? Comment below.